Okay, I'm going to make some masks here. I have two different colors and two of the white. I'm going to make some really heavy-duty masks. Since they're saying that we should double up on masks, I'm going to make some masks that are already doubled. So I went to Pinterest and found this. I looked around and found a pattern that I liked. So I printed it off. And it already has what's called the seam allowance. And I don't have to add any extra. I didn't get that last little piece. So I'm going to make some thicker masks for my husband, myself, and our son. You need a good pair of scissors. A pin cushion with some straight pins. And whatever kind of pattern you want. The very first thing that's good to start with when you're starting sewing is a square pillow. Just make a square pillow. Get some material, cut a square, get a little bit of polyfill to put in the middle of it, and make a pillow. That'll be your first thing to do. So these are like darts. This is going to make the mask fit to your face. So I cut those away. And I'm going to cut two more because I'm going to make new masks for myself and my husband and my son. So I just got my sewing machine out. Mine is a really inexpensive one. I got it at Walmart. It's a Brother. But it's good. It works perfectly well. So here's the pedal. I'm going to hook everything up to electricity. I have two cords. One to hook up the sewing machine to electricity and the other to hook up the pedal. So your sewing machine should have a handbook with it, and you'll find out how to hook up all of these things. This is a really inexpensive sewing machine, and I haven't used nearly all the things that I could do with it. So I'm going to put my pedal down where I can get to it. Turn it on. You'll see here's where my bobbin goes. Here's the bobbin. I'm going to fill it up a little bit for you. I've got a good bit there, but I'll put some more so you'll see how that works. Whoops, there goes my thread. All right, so I put my thread there, and each sewing machine is a little bit different. Put the thread in the bobbin. This one's got a good bit of thread on it, so it's going to be hard to, tell you what, we'll do that later once I've used a little bit of the bobbin thread. So for my machine, I put the bobbin in. Put the cover, and now I've got my thread, and your handbook will show you how to put the thread there. each machine's a little bit different. You have to thread the machine. There's a little hook up here that will grab it. And your handbook will tell you how to do that. So I hook it into the needle. Here's the feeder foot. I'm going to lift it. I'm going to put my thread. Make sure it's not doubled back on itself. Because it will get tangled. Okay. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it back in again because it wants to tangle. Feed it through that little hole. Put it under the foot. Hold a little bit of tension. Put the needle in and out by moving this wheel right here, and it will bring up the bobbin thread. So I'm just going to pull this all through. Okay, I've got my bobbin thread and the thread from the top both up. Make sure you have enough so that it doesn't get caught up. Now, since I'm going to make these, tell you what, I think I'm only going to make 3 layers. I have a feeling 4 layers will be a little bit much. So I'm going to start with one side. So this will be reversible. You can wear one side, and then if you want to wear the other side, you can wash it and wear the other side. So this pattern is not exact. So this is the right side, and that's the right side. I'm going to put a pin in the white thread, in the white material, so I know which side is the right side. And I'm going, so this makes a dart. If you put right side to right side, just like this. Right here tells me that I've got a straight stitch. Here are all the stitches right here that you can do. I have a straight stitch, and I'm going to leave it on straight stitch. Right here, when you're first starting out, that's if you want to go slowly, medium, or fast, and I put it on fast. So I'm going to put it probably about 1/4 of an inch. So I go ahead and I put the needle in, then I press on the foot, on the presser foot, and there you go. Make sure that your needle's up, lift up your feeder foot, I always clip my threads as I go. So this is right side to right side, and I do that again. About 1/4 of an inch. And depending on your material, sometimes you will have material that frays easily. You might want to do a zigzag stitch. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I always pull my bobbin thread and my upper thread out a little bit and put it back. So over here is my zigzag stitch. So I'm going to change this from 0, 0, which is a straight stitch, to a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to make it a little bit wider. So this is going to be a zigzag. And that'll serge the material so that it doesn't fray. Now this material doesn't fray very easily, so I'm just doing this to show you. But if you had a real open thread, open weave kind of material, you might want to do it because it might fray. Excuse me. Okay. Excuse me, I have a head cold. These are all the outside, the right side, so I'm going to do right side to right side. I'm going to put it back to my straight stitch. trim my threads. Excuse me. I've got a head cold that's giving me a fit. Okay, so I marked this white. So I've got the pin on the top. So this is my right side. I'm going to do exactly what I did before. I sort of hold my thread so it doesn't go through, doesn't pull through, and then I have to rethread it. Lift your needle up. Clip your threads. I even made, back when I was making clothes, I made my bridesmaid's dress for my wedding. How about that? I would not do that today, but I did then. I used to sew a lot, but like I said, it's not economical to sew anymore. Okay, all the right sides, you can see the right sides. By the way, this pattern, you'll see, has a little mark right here. There's another dart that I put in it because it wasn't tight enough. So when you've got it like this, I put it together and I make a little triangle right here so that it'll be nice and tight under my chin. Okay, so that's one that's done. I've got to do this one too, so I'm folding it. I'm going to make that little triangle like on the pattern. Always pull your thread out a little bit because otherwise it'll come undone and you'll have to rethread it, and it's a pain. Okay. So I have these two done. I'm going to go ahead. Really and truly, this is going to be on the inside, so it doesn't really matter, but I am going to put it right side to right side. And I'm going to use my pins to pin these together. And I can tell that my right side and my right side weren't. Okay. I want to be sure, I told you it's not perfectly symmetrical. Make sure that it meets the end. So, and this white's going to be on the inside. Just make sure that it's on the inside. Right side is the finished side, is going to be on the other side. So you can see it. The white is going to be on the inside. And you just follow it as you go. Right here, I've got my pleats, my little darts. So you might want to try to make it so it's not quite so bulky. You might want to put one on one, flip one on one side and one on the other so it won't be so bulky in just one place. Okay. I'm not going to, well, I'm going to leave, I don't have to do it on this one because I'm going to make this 3 thickness. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around on this, about 1/4 of an inch. When you get to the end, stop, pull up your feeder, and then put it back down. And like I said, you might want to go slower. It takes a while to get accustomed to using the foot pedal. So I've got it on fast, and with my foot, I can adjust it so it's not going fast. I'm getting close to the end. So I'm stopping right there. I'm going to lift my feeder foot, turn, and then do that again. Okay, toward the end. Okay, so that's done. Pull out the thread so it doesn't get tangled up. Take my pins out. So I'm going to send an email to your dad with the YouTube of how to do this and with the PDF of this pattern if you want to make some masks. Okay. Now I'm going to check, because since this, some material you can tell the right side from the wrong side, but I'm just going to make sure. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's the way it's going to go. So I should have marked that to be sure, but I didn't. There again, I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch. Right side to right side. I hold my thread down as the needle's going down so it won't pull the thread out of the needle and I'll have to put that in again. I'm saying this every time I do it just to let you know that that's what I'm doing. I try to clip my, it's not that important if you don't clip all your threads because it's going to be on the inside, but I like to clip it anyway. So here's where I'm making this extra little dart so it'll be nice and tight under my chin. All right, now you can buy the little metal things to go on your nose, but I just use pipe cleaners. So I'll put it together like this and I'll just twist it until it's nice and tight. Twist this side all the way around and then straighten it out. And twist, twist, twist. You're going to make a nice twisted pipe cleaner. And then I'm going to make sure I've got my center point there. And my dogs want to go out, so I'm going to stop right here for a second and let them go out. All right. Okay. It doesn't really matter which one I use as long as I use the wrong side. I'm going to put this right up here And I'm going to pin this down. Put a little bit of the pin on one side and then a little bit on the other side. And get about 1/4 of an inch close to the edge, because you're going to want this to be as close to the edge as you can have it, so that you can position this really nicely around your nose. All right. Okay, now I'm going to sew over this. Sometimes the metal in there will make the needle break, but for the most part, it's pretty tough. So I'm just gonna position this and make it so it'll stay there. You hear it going over the pins. Okay, I get to the top, I turn, and this will just help keep this little nose piece where it's supposed to be. Now, if you get a pattern, the pattern gives you all the directions. Everything that I'm saying as I go, it will say. Okay, so that's on the wrong side, which is where I want it to be. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to put right side here to right side there, and pin the pieces together. Especially when you're first starting, pins are wonderful. You need pins to make sure everything's lined up. And I don't have the right, I told you I should have made sure which side on that other one. So it's going to be off. That's okay. It's not the end of the world if it's off. It would be better because it would be longer that way, but it's okay. If you're making it for a man, though, you're going to want to be sure that you've got more length there. I'm going to run out of that length. And there's a lot of fabric here, so I tried to position it so that not all of the fabric is going one way. Alrighty. Make sure that it's smooth. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cut these edges off because you hear her dog barking, howling actually. I hate that I lost this, but that's okay. Now I'm going to want one of these edges to be completely open because I'm going to need it when the time comes, because I'm going to turn all of this. So I'm not going to start at the edge. I'm going to start about 3/4 of an inch in, and I'm going to do my stitch just a little bit beyond where that 1/4 inch stitch is. When you come to a place where there's a lot of material, you may have to slow down a little bit. So I'm getting close to the edge, and I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to do one more since I had to cut that part off. Lift up my feeder foot. Now I'm going to go all the way across this way. Okay, I'm at the end, so I'm turning it. And I want to be sure that my thread is on the inside of where that line of thread is. Otherwise it'll show. The thread will show on the right side of the material. Okay, I want this open, so I'm going to stop about 3/4 of an inch to the edge. Lift up my needle, pull this out, and I'm going to take all my pins out. All right. So before I turn this is what you need to know with anything that you sew. You're going to want to clip your seams so there's not a lot of bulky fabric there. Now this is a rounded part to give you ease, just barely. Don't cut all the way to the line of stitching. Excuse me, but cut enough so that it gives it some ease. Where there is a excuse me, where there's a corner. Now this is open, so I'm not going to do there. But this corner, I'm going to trim these corners. So you want to be sure there's not a lot of, and I'm going to go here because here there's a little bit of a curve. I clip this so that it gives it a little ease. So sorry. Now I'm going to turn this. And once you get it turned, use your scissors to get it nice and neat. Get these, oops, I poked through. That's not good, but that's not the end of the world. It's on the edge of the mask. I got too close to the edge. Where that pipe cleaner was, you want to be sure that you make sure it's close to the top. All right. So here's your mask. But this side's open, so what you're going to do is you're going to fold this edge in, and you're going to fold this edge in and line them up. Put some pins there, just to keep it. And really, I can hold it while I do it. I'm going to take that pin out. And I'm just going to start right there. And I'm actually going to go all the way around the mask. Okay, when I come close to the end, I lift up the foot, and I'm trying to make sure that it's nice and square here, that it's the other side isn't showing too much. If it shows a little bit, it's not the end of the world. I'm slowing down because there's a lot of material here. So I'm smoothing it out. And the foot pedal is something that you will definitely need to get accustomed to. Coming to the end, lift that up. And all of this takes practice. Okay, I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to go across again. When you're up here, you're trying to make sure that that pipe cleaner is on this side of your stitching. I can feel it, so I'm trying to make it go to that side. All right, there we go. Let me close the door now that the dogs are in, or at least one of them is. Lift this up, trim your threads. So this is your mask. I'm going to trim all of my threads or pull them through. Here's the mask, here's the top, here's the bottom. You see where it goes under your chin, and it's reversible. Just make sure that you wash it before you reverse it, because if you've been wearing it this side out, you don't want to get those mean old COVID germs close to your face. I doubt if you get a whole lot anyway. All right, now this is what I do to make the ear thingamadoodles. I get scrunchies, scrunchy bands. I get a couple. I pull this off. This is just regular scrunchy ponytail bands, and I pull a couple off. Now this is made out of nylon. Now you see, I look for the place where I know that they put it together, and that's the weak spot. I'm going to cut it there. I look for the weak spot here. You can see exactly where the weak spot is. Now these nylon things will fray, but nylon burns, will sear. So I take a lighter and I sear the edges so that they won't fray. And I do that to both of them. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to position it on the end of the mask, and I'm going to put a little piece of tape, a pin here to help keep it where I want it to be. And I'm going to put the other one right here. And especially since I had to cut off some of that edge, I want to get this as close to the edge as possible, since I had to sacrifice some of my mask when I mistook what was the right side. Okay, now I'm going to change this setting. Right here it shows you where the zigzag is. I'm going to go to zigzag, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and you'll see that from your handbook how to do that. I make sure that my threads are pulled back so that I won't have to rethread that needle. And I'm going to go down, and I'm going to zigzag over this. And I want to zigzag a couple of different times. I've gotten a little bit there, but I want to zigzag it again so that it will not pull through. So I'm just going to trim this, and I'm going to zigzag it on the other side. I've enjoyed sewing. I don't sew a lot. It takes a lot of time. I went to a designing class a long time ago. I never really did anything with it. Okay. All right, so I've got that pretty well positioned. It's pretty snug. Clip. And sometimes they get a little gnarly on the other side, but nobody's really going to see it, so I don't worry about it. Like I said, I went to a design class years ago. They taught you how you could see a pattern, see something like that you wanted to do and make it yourself, come up with your own pattern. But it seemed like more work than I was willing to put into it at the time. I enjoyed the seminar, but I didn't really do anything with it. So I'm zigzagging, zigzagging, zigzagging. And that's nice and taut there. I'm going to trim these threads. And like I said, I'm pulling them out some so that I won't have to rethread. So that side's done. Now I need to put the other one. If you decide to buy a pattern, be sure to cut out all the pattern pieces before you cut it out of the material. It's an extra step. My mother never used to do that. My mother was a seamstress, sewed. But I think it's just neater, and you don't waste material having the pattern not trimmed like it should be. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. I don't need to, I got it right on the middle, so that works well. Last one, and then I'll show you how I fill the bobbin. Okay, I'm going to put this right over that. It isn't hitting the center, so I went over just a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to wash this, and after I wash it, if you just spread it out, sort of smooth it out in the way you want it to be, then it's ready to wear. And there is your mask. Ta-da! So this incorporated the most basic things you need to know about sewing. I had darts to give contour, corners that you need to clip, curves that you need to clip, making sure that you don't clip into the stitching. There's top stitching here and zigzag. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put some more thread in this, on this bobbin, now that I've got it down some. So, I hope you can see all of this. It looks like you can. There's a little hole in the bobbin. I put my thread through that hole. If I can get it in there. There we go. And I'm gonna, this is where it fills the bobbin. And yours might be different, but this is what this machine does. Okay, so once I snap that in place, it will start filling the bobbin. And I like to make sure that it threads it equally, evenly. So I sort of move my thread up and down to make sure that my bobbin's evenly threaded. Okay? And that is my lesson in sewing. I push that back, my bobbin's ready to go back where it was. I'm going to trim that little piece of thread that was sticking out of the hole and put it back the way that my machine says to do. Your machine may be a little different. And like I said, this is, another thing you need to know, every machine has a place to keep stuff. And right in here are extra bobbins, a little screwdriver to put your feeder foot on. If you were doing a special kind of zigzag, you would need this. And there's all sorts of neat little things in here that I rarely use because I do very simple sewing. So put that back in there and put this back in place. And that's it. All right, that's our lesson for today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Start with a pillow. Get 2 squares. Make sure that you leave when you put right side to right side, go all the way around except for a section about this big. Then clip your corners, turn it inside out. Make sure that you take your scissors or something pointy to make sure that your points are nice and crisp, and then you can put your polyfill in. And then when you have that open spot, what I typically do then is I sew that by hand so I can sew it where it doesn't show as much. But you can, if you wish, sew it on the machine. Try that and let me know how it goes. Good luck. Bye.